Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Glass, the window cleaning podcast. This is episode 7. I've had an idea all week what to do about, but wasn't sure whether to do it or not, and I'm going to go for it, that's for sure. Because Monday evening, I was tinkering around the back of the van. Now, behind my van is where the shed is that holds all my pure water system, which is the reverse osmosis and DI system. Now, I could hear the booster pump making a noise, but it was slightly different than what it normally is. That's what got my attention. So when I went round to the shed, I checked while it was running and I saw the RO reading because I've got a dual inline TDS meter. So I can get the TDS levels after the reverse osmosis, and it was reading 58 and sometimes it was going down to 50. Now that's stupidly high. Normally it's been sitting like 5 to 8 at the most lately. Now, I'd changed my pre-filters a few weeks before that, and just over a month ago, I'd changed the resin. So I was a bit confused by this. So instantly, I was just thinking there's a problem with the booster pump due to the little noise that was slightly different. That was only a small noise that was slightly different. So it wasn't screaming out that there's a problem. And then when I checked the resin, thinking, okay, what's that? I was surprised to find it already at 6 within 4 weeks of me changing it. So obviously for a while, my TDS levels after the reverse osmosis must have been high because that's going to wear your resin down quickly. Sounds like Jonathan Ross then. And yeah, so I was a bit concerned and wondering what the hell is going on here. And in mind, this is Monday night, and all I'm thinking about is I've got a problem, I've got to fix it, but how do I fix it when I'm constantly working? I can't afford to lose a day because I've already lost 2 days off that month, which was February. And I need every single penny because of what's happened to my van breaking down. So I was just wondering what on earth is going on. So I straight away thought, right, my membrane must have blown, but has it blown because there's a problem with my booster pump? So in my head, I'm like, I need new resin, I need a reverse osmosis membrane, and I'm going to need a booster pump. So I went on Xline, thought about it, put it in the cart, and then basically Tuesday morning when I kept thinking of all the different ways, I just thought, sod it, I need to change all of it. I'm going to have to order it because it's going to take a couple of days to get out. Now, normally with Xline, if you place an order before 1 p.m., it gets dispatched that day. So I was assuming the following day that I was going to get it. And again, I can't go and change the resin, can't change the membrane during the day because that means I have to take time off work and I can't afford to. So I knew it was going to be an evening job or as soon as I finish work. Nothing like that to try and get you to speed up, I can tell you. But yeah, so I ordered it. Now, a couple of days later, the order is still down as being prepared and not yet shipped. And at this point, my situation is just going to get worse. Luckily, nothing had. The resin was still 6, but it can start to rapidly go quick. And I still don't know what the problem is, but everything was the same as what it was Monday night. So I thought, right. So I gave Xline a ring and just said, I've noticed it's still being down as not shipped, so it's being prepared. I just wondered, are you waiting for something to come in? And they said, oh, they're going to make up the booster pump for you. So I said, okay, I thought perhaps, and if it's going to be anything, it'd be the booster pump that's waiting to come in. But what they do is, you see, they've got the booster pump and they put fittings on there and some hoses so that when I get it, I can just basically plug and play. So they're going to add the fittings to it, basically. So I just said, look, I've got a really problem and I need to change my membrane as soon as possible. Could you just send that and maybe send the booster pump later? But what they just said is they're going to put it in the post and send it out that day. So thanked them very much because I really needed it. And it did arrive the following day. So it arrived for me on Friday. Now, I was worked last Saturday, yesterday at the moment. I had a gutter clear day and some fascia office and gutters. So I've done 4 of those jobs and we also did a quote. So that was a good day's work for me and I need it. Bear in mind, I've lost 2 days work during the month. And I've had some skips because it's unfortunate that time of year and I need every penny I can get to start paying off everything I've had to do to try and get my van sorted out, or the new van. So today being Sunday, and that's why I'm doing the podcast late in the evening, I've gone down to try and change all this stuff. Now, I tried filming it and doing other stuff. That didn't work out anyway, so I can't make a video on it. But what I have done is because I noticed during the day when I was trying to do a bit of filming and stuff, the way I've got my setup is the water goes through a water softener first before it then goes through the RODI system. Now, on the water softener, there's a valve that you can turn. It's just a plastic handle, basically. And I've forgotten its exact word, but basically, if you have it turned one way, the water's going to pass through the water softener. Bypass valve, that's the word I'm looking for. And if I'd had it turned the other way, so it bypasses, the water doesn't go through the water softener, basically. So if you was going to get soft water through your water system, you have the bypass valve off. When you turn it on, you could then go around saying water the grass or whatever you want to be doing in the garden, and you're not wasting the soft water. It's just using the mains water. So when I'd last changed the pre-filters, because I've got the water softener, if I turn that bypass valve to the off position, what happens is the water is not going to start peeing out of my RODI machine while I'm changing the pre-filters. So I've gone and done that and left it in that position. So what's happening now is as the water's coming into my RODI system, it's coming straight from the tap. It's not coming through the water softener. Now, in that 1 month where it had been running like that, or a couple of weeks, whatever it turned out to be from when I last did the pre-filters, that is what's buggered up my membrane already. So obviously the pre-filters can't stand whatever the chemicals are, they're that strong, or type of chemical, I have no idea, in the water, that's gone and probably shot my membrane. So rather than changing everything, I said to my wife, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the easy bits first. So I changed the pre-filters, I've changed the resin. And because I'd noticed at this point what I'd done, I turned the bypass valve off. So now the water's coming through the water softener. That alone has dropped the TDS levels from 58 down to 10 straight away. So I said to my wife, I'm going to let it run for a couple of days and see if that figure gets a bit lower, or have I damaged my membrane. At the moment, when I've done the rejection rate, it's operating at the moment at 96 point something percent. When it gets to 95%, that's when I need to change the membrane, basically, to make it more efficient. And what's also happened is I've told my wife that I've noticed that little funny noise I was getting from my booster pump, that is now not happening. So for some reason, it's making my membrane work harder, not going through the water softener. So it's bypassed it and coming straight from the tap. And because the membrane started to rise up the TDS levels, that was putting strain on the booster pump, hence the slight change in noise that I'd noticed. Now that's gone. So I'm going to see how the next few days goes. If I need to change it, I've already got the membrane now to change it. And if the booster pump was to be knackered, I would be able to change that because I've got the booster pump plus the fittings. I've just got to put the fittings on it myself. X-Line have sent me all them as well. So that is where I'm at. And that's the slight little mistake I've gone and made, because you're always rushing, has cost me a lot of money. Like I said, everything cost me £885. I knee-jerked and bought the whole lot thinking I'm just going to have to change the whole lot, rather than being able to work out what the problem was, because I need to fix the solution quick and I can't afford to take time off work to do it. So where I am at the moment then is filling up. Like I said, it's 10 parts per million after RO at the moment. Obviously, because I've changed the resin, it's now coming out 0 parts per million. So I'm happy with that. I'll wait and see. If I think I need to change membrane, that is something I'm going to have to do one evening or one weekend when I'm finally not working, because this month should be a better month. Hopefully not so many skips. The weather should be turning a bit better. And I've got a lot more work booked in because it's a longer month. And that's what I'm hoping anyway. So that's why it's important for me to get my water right, because without the water, I'm no good as a window cleaner with the water-fed pole system. So that's one of the bad things with the water-fed pole system compared to traditional. You've got to get hold of or make your own pure water. And if that's not good enough, you can't do anything. Your window cleaning is not going to work. You're going to get loads of complaints because of all the spotting marks on the windows. Now, changing the RO membrane, it's not like the biggest job in the world, but it is awkward because I've got to disconnect everything. And obviously, so the water's not peeing out everywhere while I've done that. And then I've got to take the membrane out of the casing. So I'm going to have to move my whole system because it's on a static stand, flat on the floor. And you've got to take the old one out to put the new one in, put it all back together to make sure nothing's going to leak, stand it all back up, reconnect it, and it'll all be good to go. So it's not a 5-minute job, but it's not too bad. But if you're in the wrong frame of mind, you're not going to look forward to doing it. So that is the worst case scenario, what I'm going to have to do this week. Hopefully things will improve, but we'll see. I'm sure there's been damage done to my membrane. It's just deciding how bad it is. Can I limp through, get a few more extra life out of it before I need to change it, as I've got the membrane anyway. I've got plenty of resin. I've got some spare pre-filters as well, so that's all ready to go for the next job. And if something was going to happen to my booster pump, I've already got a spare one on the shelf, good to go. It's just been an outset of money, but that's how important having a pure water system for me, being a water-fed pole window cleaner, is. And I've just had to bite the bullet and do it. Now, good thing about this month is I've got through, I've paid everyone, I've got a bit of money left over, which I would use to pay some debts off that I've incurred getting my new van. However, I can't do that because I've got a bill to pay from my accountant. So that is the money I've made this month is going to go on paying the accountant's bill. And then finally, that is my tax account sorted out, tax paid, accountants paid, start again. But in order to do all that, I need the pure water. So that's why I've had to go and do it. So it is difficult because when things go wrong, it seems to be a lot of them on the bounce. It definitely does for me. Seem unlucky and a lot of things go wrong. Now, I'm not working tomorrow. There's good reason for that because my wife's going to the doctors. Our car's broken down in Scotland. So my van has got to take my wife to the doctors. Plus, for this occasion, I want to be there as well. I don't know how long we're going to be in there. And I can't get my 2 sons to drive in the van because it's got to fit me and my wife as well. So we've earned a day off anyway. And if I need to, I will change the membrane tomorrow. But I might just wait and see how it goes, hopefully. Try and get a bit more mileage out of what I've got left. Who knows? After a few days of producing water, it might flush stuff out and actually not be too bad. But I don't know. I was really shocked just by having that lever, the bypass valve on my water softener. Said it was coming direct from the mains tap, was to cause that in such a short space of time. So you're talking within 2 or 3 weeks, really. Quite surprised. Now, I know from doing all my checking before that, the TDS levels after the RO were absolutely fine. And I was just saying to my wife, it's been running like that for quite a good while. And then obviously I've opened my mouth and then this has gone and blinking happened, but it's my fault. So I've got to make sure I turn the bypass valve into the off position once I've done any maintenance work. Luckily for me, I've put a pressure gauge on the system so I can see the water, the pressure of the water going into the membrane, and it was running at 80 psi, which is normal. For the booster pump was working, but it was working a bit harder than what it's supposed to, I think, hence why the noise that I could hear, it's hard to describe, but I just knew it was slightly different from normal, and that's good job. I was outside tinkering around with the van and just thinking, that seems strange. And I had noticed it was taking longer to produce pure water. And obviously, if there's a problem like that with the membrane, that had been shot. I'm hoping it's going to revert itself and it'll be all right. But if I think it's too close to 95%, I might as well just jump the gun and change it anyway. So it's all good to go. It's something I won't have to worry about. All this running the water would just happen automatically in the background as what I've been used to for quite a few months. But yeah, and the reason why I got water softener in the first place was because my membrane kept blowing every 2 years when the membrane's supposed to last between 3 and 5 years. Now, it depends obviously on your water usage, how hard it's got to work to make water, how often, and also what your TDS levels is. Where I live, it's 260 parts per million. And what they do suggest is when you get to 300 parts per million or you're going over, that you use a water softener. So when I've rang Xline and I even took my system up there, they tested it and said, no, everything's right. Because I'd been tinkering around with stuff and I want to make sure I hadn't changed anything that I shouldn't have done. They said everything was fine. So the only thing they could think of is where I live, there's a particular chemical in the water that can knacker your pre-filters. Now, your your pre-filters, obviously, you've got your paper one, and then you've got the carbon one for the chemical. So if the chemical's that hard, it's going to destroy the carbon one, and it's not going to do its job of protecting the membrane. So all the chemicals are going to get through that, affect my membrane. So when I had the water softener, that definitely changed things, and my membrane problem went away. Now, membrane was just over 200 quid at that time, but now it's like £270 with VAT. So that's an expensive mistake I made there, or potentially anyway. So we'll have to wait and see. And then think of all the resin and everything else that goes on top of that and new pre-filters. So it's starting to push up in it. And then obviously I've knee-jerked and gone and brought a booster pump, thinking my other booster pump may have been knackered, because you can't think straight. And like I said, it's days later until I noticed what had happened. So yeah, and I've also fitted a valve so I can hand turn a valve, and that would have just stopped the water anyway without me having to use the bypass valve. So that's something I'm going to have to remember and start doing again. So yeah, that's how my system works. It goes through the water softener first, so the water's nice and soft to go into the membrane, and that protects my membrane. Obviously, it goes through the pre-filters first. They last longer then, but I do change them every 3 to 4 months. I might change them every 2 months now, just to make sure everything's tickety-boo, because I've got to protect that membrane. It's a lot of money. And then once it comes through the membrane, it then obviously goes into my the DI resin, which then polishes the water down from soft to 0 parts per million, which is what you want for window cleaning. It doesn't stay like that forever. Obviously, it starts to creep up, but when I get to 6 parts per million, that's when I change the resin. When I notice at 4 parts per million, if I haven't got any resin, that's when I order it. So that's basically how I work. If you put your stuff in the comments on how you do your pure water, if you've got RO-DI system or just DI, it doesn't matter. And just put down what you do at certain TDS levels of when you order or start to change stuff to make things work for you. Now, I've got an RO-DI system because obviously I've got high TDS. I know a lot of people out there have got a lot higher than me. And also the amount of volume of water that I get through and produce and use daily, having an RO-DI system is good for me. And I had that from day one anyway, because I knew that was the way to go. And obviously I didn't know how busy I was going to get or not. I just get that set. It doesn't matter, and I can grow or whatever. And that's why I've got that one. And it's been working fine. Yes, I've had problems with it, but I've tinkered it round. I did have a problem with me water filter softener, because what I do on there's resin in it, but it's not mixed bed resin. It's a different type. So you put salt in a container, and when it regens, basically the salt dissolves, and that flushes through the container that holds the resin for it, and it regenerates the resin that's in there. So whereas my water-fed pole, the resin I'm using there, I have to take out and put new resin in. Inside the water softener, the resin doesn't. It just gets regenerated and by the salt. But there was a time when that wasn't happening and the salt wasn't dissolving, so I thought there was a problem with my water softener. But I seem to think it can't regen while it's producing water through the RO-DI system. If I regen the water softener, this could get confusing if you're listening there, I think, because I'm starting to get confused talking about it. I'd have to do it whilst my machine is not making pure water. So that's something I'm going to have to keep an eye on over the next few days and see if I can work out. That's how it works, basically. And then I know when to do the regen for the water softener. And if I do that every couple of days, because the amount of water produced, that works fine. And that's going to protect my membrane, and I should get 3 to 5 years use out of that, which will be a big saving when you start thinking how much they are. And how much are they going to be in 3 to 5 years' time as well, the rate everything's going up. It's just amazing, isn't it? But it is what it is, I suppose, and I need it. And for me, I haven't got a spotless water near me. The nearest one is out in Peterborough. So to me, that's like a 20, 25-minute drive to get to the spotless water anyway. And then I've got to drive back home. So I definitely am not going to be doing that every day. That's why it's important for me to be able to make my own water. It's more convenient for me. Plus, if I need to refill or top up during the day, I can do that at home rather than to do another round trip of nearly an hour, I suppose. So it's definitely really important for me to have my RODI system running perfect. For the water softener system, I think that was £400 at the time. And I've got salt that runs off that as well. But when it all works fine, which it has done for a while, it's just for a little while it wasn't, and I was a bit miffed. But I think I've worked out what's going on. Because today, before me turning my RODI machine on, I got it to regen with salt in there, and I noticed the salt had actually dissolved this time. So that's why I think when my water purification machine's running, it's not a good idea to have the water softener do a regen. I don't think it'll work at the same time. Well, that's what I'm going off anyway. It's just a hunch, something for me to figure out over the next few days this week anyway. So that's what's been on my mind this week, and what the hell am I going to go? But I just knee-jerked. I'm the sort of person, I suppose it's the military thing. When you push down and you know you've got to make a decision and you've got to make the decision quick, I don't hang about, be it right or wrong. I just go with my gut feeling and say, sod it, this needs doing, do it. That's it. I just got to live with it now. So I could have saved myself some money, reference to booster pump, because I think that's like over 300 quid on itself. I could have saved that, but I just thought, worst case scenario, I need it, get it. And then obviously looking at it now, if I don't, no problem, it's on the shelf. So if something does go, I ain't got to wait a couple of days, it's there to replace. And at some point, a booster pump will wear out, because the old one has. It did last quite a few years, to be honest, but I've got one good to go. And again, I might have saved myself some money in the long run, because from what I paid for it now, just thinking a couple of years' time, price rises, it'll go up. So maybe unwittingly, even though I couldn't really afford it, but I needed it, so I brought it. I could have saved myself some more money in the long run. Who knows? Chance will be a nice thing, but we'll find out. Now, plus note this week is I've got 2 Gardener Ultimate brushes. They're DuPont ones. I've got one to go on my small pole and then one on my normal pole. So I took the one off the small pole and I've told Matthew to swap it round with his brush and to trial it. So I've shown him how I use this particular brush, because it's got 100-degree fan jets, Gardener ones on it. And I told him the difference on cleaning the window using that brush from our X-Line brushes with the rinse bars, and told him to try and give it a go, because I think it's going to save us some water. And I've also got him to turn his flow rate down. So I've been working off 45 for about the last month, and I've told Matthew to do the same. So we're both now on a flow rate of 45 rather than 60. And I've said to him we should save water. Now, there was one particular day and we didn't even need to fill up the van, and I'd used just over half a tank. But that's a day, I suppose, where it would work like that, because we didn't have any big buildings or massive conservatories or conservatory roofs. Whereas other days I'd do some sort of like jobs like that, the big houses with big conservatories on them, or you're doing a roof, like a regular once over. I think you tend to use a lot more water on the conservatories, I think, because you've got all the decorative bits you're trying to get in and out, especially with the white UPVC plastic bits all down the bottom, that sort of thing. So I think it depends what day, but hopefully we'll give it a go. I told him we'll give it a month and we'll start to see and notice things. And if we're saving even more water, basically, if I can get through a day's work without having to drive home to fill up lunchtime to go back out. Now, when I say fill up lunchtime, it doesn't mean I'm completely out of water, but it does mean I won't have enough water to last the day. So when I go home and have my lunch, we just top up the van so I can get to the end of the day, no problem. But I must admit, it is nice to go home and have a designated lunch break. It doesn't have to be long, does it? But if you have a cup of tea, get to speak to my missus, see me other kids, the dog gets to see me, that sort of thing. And then we're back out. It's nice to have that break rather than just being on the go all the time just because you want to get home quicker than normal. Because sometimes it just wears you out. But if we can do that anyway on certain days, perhaps, especially where it's going to take me 20, 30 minutes to drive home and then the same to drive back out, if we can avoid that and just work all day, eat my packed lunch, we can always have a stop somewhere, can't we? Normally stop off at a supermarket for lunch when we've got packed lunches with us, because we can have a toilet break then and just say to Matthew, right, we'll have 20 minutes, eat a lunch break, chill out, and then bang, get out there. But if we can save enough water and get us through the day, that'd be brilliant. I carry spare water anyway in barrels, so that would be enough. So we're going to play around with it anyway, see what works. And then when we're on the real local days, I'd probably say we go home and have lunch at lunchtime. So we're mixing it up a bit because it's like a 5-minute drive to get home, that sort of thing. I think it's worth it then. And then because of me on my water tablets and that, sometimes it's nice to be in your own home and use your own toilet. I've certainly learnt where all the lay-bys are on these country roads and villages around near me, put it that way. I've got my favourite trees and spots. Now, I've also ordered, just before I've done the podcast, using my birthday money to go towards it, another action camera to replace my Action 4. So I've now got the Action 6, and I've been thinking about this since my birthday. What do I do? Because I've got the Action Osmo 360. I brought that a while back because I had my Christmas bonuses, Christmas tips basically, and Christmas money. I used that to go towards that. And because it was a deal, it was cheaper than the Action 6. And me looking at all the hype behind it, thought, right, it's got 360 plus it's got a single lens, so it can be like an action camera as well as a 360. But the footage on it is nowhere near as good as an Action 4. Sometimes certain angles, my arms look longer than what I am. So I think the 360's got its place for certain shots. So I'm going to go back to my action camera. Now, the Action 4 always suffers in low light, which is why I find it hard to film in the winter, because I like to talk at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, and that's normally when it's dark, and I get problems there. With the Action 6, that won't happen. And with the 360, that won't happen because they've all got this mode called Super Night. So I've decided I'm going to get the action camera anyway with my birthday money, sod it, and do that. So I can give them two cameras to film anyway and get different views rather than the action camera one all the time. I'll try and work out how to use a 360 for other reasons. But what I try and do is when I'm filming is I don't want it to interrupt my work. So that's why I like the easy use of action cameras and that. They're pretty easy. Whereas when I'm using me mirrorless camera, the Canon M50, you've got to play around with lots of things so everything's exposed right, and you've got different lenses, different stuff, and it's big and clunky, and I haven't got time to stop and play around with all that stuff. I like the action cameras for filming like that because it doesn't slow me down my work. So I've got to juggle that plus working basically when I'm working and trying to film. But yeah, we'll see how that holds up. So I'll be looking forward to getting that in a couple of days' time and then playing around, and hopefully I'll start making more of these videos again. And I'll try and make other videos rather than just the vlog. But the podcast, I'm definitely enjoying that. Like I said, 7th episode, that's quite a big milestone. I haven't got the facts and figures, but I believe there's like billions of podcasts. Out of all the billions, there's not many that actually make it to even 7 episodes. So I'm going to have to keep this going, keep thinking every week, what the hell am I going to waffle about? If you've got any ideas, put stuff down in the comments, because the whole idea of this podcast is just it's something you can listen to in your ears while you're working. I know it's going to be on YouTube for you to watch as well, but it's going to be, obviously it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. And yeah, that's the idea behind it. So give me things you want to hear me talking about and I'll rab it on, hopefully, and just be a voice in your ears while you're working. But how many of you who've been working away listening to this have had the same problem or something similar when it comes to your pure water, getting it or making it yourself? So today, Sunday's been a long day for me because as well as trying to figure out what I was going to have to change and thinking on my feet and then spotting the reasons why I've had the problems with me pure water, it's also a day where I clean the van. So I wash it inside and out, put all the stuff back in. I clean my pole. Matthew's done his pole, all lubed up and put back in the van. We've had to take the gutter van system out, but luckily my two sons, they took that out. They've cleaned it all out and put it back away because I was doing stuff in the shed. That was something I thought I'd have to do. And by the end of doing all that and then trying to film and that all going wrong, I basically drew a dead end. So I've got this podcast out, and that's why I'm not doing the live on my YouTube channel tonight, because I'll just run out of time. and I just want to finally chill out at some point with the family. So that's what I'm going to do after this. Right, that's it. That's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening to me this far. Thanks for following along if you've listened to all the other podcasts as well. If you've got any comments, put the comments down below, because it's going to be on YouTube or wherever they are for in notes, or whether they're reviews, they'd be great as well on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It'd all help me out and give me some ideas that you want to hear me rabbiting on and talking about. And just be a friend in the ear, really. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a good, safe week, and hopefully plenty of work this week out on the glass. Ta-da.